Good morning, Nelson County. Welcome to episode 16 of the Community Brew Live. Happy Friday! One of these days we're going to start at 8:30 on the dot, and I'm not going to mess something up. Today is actually not that day, so we're still waiting. But we've got a great panel lined up for you guys, and we are so excited to kick off our second little NTI demo slam. So I'm going to kick it over to Chase.
Awesome. Thanks, Brooke. So just to recap, if you were not online yesterday, so we had some really cool stuff that was talked about. We had Miss Abigail Woosley from OKH, and she talked about they were getting ready to do the Holocaust and do the Holocaust Museum at the library and do some really cool stuff. Obviously, NTI changed that. So her and her kids started doing Anne Frank, and part of that was them writing about something they're passionate about, something that they're interested in. That's stimulated a lot of really good conversations. Randy Jury from the Academy talked a little bit about YouTube and Mr. Kelly Gallagher and Penny Kettle and how she's using some professional learning with them to stimulate some reading and writing conversations with her kids. Beth Bartley talked about utilizing video and video chat and conferencing and bringing some of that into the mix. Mr. Tyler Mudd talked about how he's doing some current events and really they're like living history right now, and how he's using some of that for his kids. I think that was the four. Did I miss anybody? Brooke?
I don't think so.
I think that was good. So those were the ones yesterday. We're excited to have a few more folks on this morning. So one of the things we want to continue to encourage you guys to do is utilize the chat feature. Make sure that you are piping in. We'd love to hear other conversations, other things that are taking place, and see where we go from there. So I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to let someone pop in. So, Brooke, I don't know if you want to call on somebody or it's the best. I forgot how we did it yesterday.
No, we just let him go. We unmute your mic and y'all can just fight it out.
I'll go. So my world at preschool, I'm Tracy, and I'm a teacher at the preschool. I teach 3 and 4s. NTI is a little crazy for us. Our kiddos can't access everything on their own, so of course parents have to help. But our world is different because we teach through play. So as for our NTI, we're encouraging parents to play games and things like that. My biggest, I guess my passion is to give them experiences. So next week we're going to start incubating eggs. They don't know yet. It's a surprise. And so we're going to do that. We're going to plant some seeds and just watch all those things. But mostly we want them to just know we're still here. Social emotional stuff is really important to our preschoolers. So we just try to, we've been flip gridding them and giving them a challenge, and then they can video us back, which they really love until after spring break, and they kind of just disappeared on us. So we're going to try to get that back going. We just let them, we also have Google Meets where they get to talk to us, and we have just the meeting. It's better than I thought it was going to be with 3 and 4-year-olds. They actually do pretty good with it. But yeah, it's been a challenge because they're so hands-on. We really need to be hands-on with them, and it's hard. It's hard to make that happen at home.
So the other day, just so you guys know, I got to watch. Tracy is my 4-year-old's teacher, and I got to watch her conduct a Google Meet with, I don't know, there was probably 10 to 15 4-year-olds in there, and man, like you talk about an epic experience trying to get those, but it was really cool. They got to see each other. They got to experience each other. I think it was a way to expose them to some things, but that's really cool. I know as a parent, I really appreciate the way that you guys have engaged our preschool kids, because I think that's a group where when like in the role that I'm in, when I start thinking about NTI, it's easy to not think about preschool, right? Like we think about, K-12 and how we are going to sometimes engage those students. But I think one of the great things you all have done at the ELC is think really creatively around how do we engage 3 and 4 year olds as part of the NTI process, because they may be home and it may look different because it's done through play and some of those things. But, um, it's a really important piece of the puzzle. So awesome. Thanks, Tracy.
Well, and I have to give you a shout out, Tracy, too. Haley Victory is in the chat, and she was said, "Oh my goodness, Google Meets with 4-year-olds. Wow, it is truly an art." so definitely shout out to you on that one.
I'll jump on next. I'm Carol. I teach first grade, Carol Gasko, at Cox's Creek Elementary School. And first graders in NTI looks very different for an extended amount of time. When the news started to come that we may be out for an extended amount of time, my partner teachers and I decided very quickly that we needed to make a plan fast. And so, because we're not one-to-one, the kids had little to no Google classroom experience. They had used Freckle and Raz separately, but never in a Google classroom. So we did a crash course that last day on what is Google Classroom, how to use Google Classroom, and then we crossed our fingers that they would go home and remember. And they did, and they are rocking it. And we have pretty much just made Google Classroom our platform. We are doing daily meets, 3 during the day and 2 at night for the working parents. And the participation has been amazing. And for me as a teacher, to get to see the kiddos, it makes all of this so much easier. But also, I mean, seeing the smiles on those kids' faces, and sometimes we're just giving them information, they still love it. They just love to see us. One big thing that we're doing is a show and tell every Wednesday morning, and they are sitting and ready with whatever they have to show us and tell us about. And then on Fridays, we're doing a dance party to just celebrate the week. Every kid gets on and mutes their mic, and we just dance it out for 15 minutes. And the smiles on those kids' faces when it's their turn to be on the screen and dance is just amazing. So we have lots of academics in our classroom. We have the basics: reading, writing, spelling, math. But we've really tried to focus a lot too on that care piece, because we know a lot of these kiddos, parents are working and they're busy, and some of these kiddos aren't getting the interaction that they would have been getting at school. And so we've just tried really hard to keep that care piece in there. We actually are doing a weekly flip grid also as one of their assignments, and it's just them telling us how they feel. If they're anxious about anything that's going on, or if there's anything that's worrying them or weighing on them. And so then we can respond back in a video and try to help with that in the best way that we can.
That's really cool. It's interesting. I was a high school teacher and a high school principal, and so I've worked primarily my career in high school. But now I have a first grader, and so I didn't really realize, like, when you do show and tell. So they did this one time. They didn't do it every week, but they've done it once in this class, and they you forget sometimes, like, they can take anything and make anything from that. So it was really cool to see, like what quarantine life had produced with show and tell. That was a neat experience for them. So I love that idea. I think that's a really cool way to explore passions and those sorts of things with first graders during this time. That's really cool. So you said one of the things that was on the chat I saw that I think is important is Carol is you're the STC, correct?
Yes.
And I think Kelsey and Miss Victory and others really echo your work as a technology leader at Cox's Creek. So you said you guys weren't one-to-one, and then kind of had to make some shifts. How did that happen? Like, what were some things that you did to bring that to life?
Well, on like I said on that last day, when our MTI work previously for first grade were choice boards, and they were set up to really only work 3 days. I mean, because they had like a bingo board type thing, and so my kids are were decently fluent with computers just because I am the STC. I came from upper grades, and I love technology. So mine maybe knew a little bit more, but basically we just did a crash course. We went through how do we get on, we practiced, okay, now what does the icon look like? We made little nicknames up for what they look like. How do you get to your waffle? And then we sent them home, and basically that first day, Tuesday, I think the 17th, we just called every parent and we did a little walkthrough with the parents, and our parents at Cox's Creek are phenomenal. It's the only school I've taught at, but I can't imagine better parents. I mean, they just let me get a piece of paper. Now, what do they need to do next? Now, what's next? And they really are helping. The kiddos are just, I mean, we are even doing our speech meetings through the Google Classroom. Our sped ed teachers are able to meet with the kiddos and do data tracking through the classroom. Our literacy specialists are meeting and reading through the classroom, and related arts. And the kids, they look, we remind them during the meetings, make sure you're watching your stream, and they look and see that it's a message to them, and they pop right on. Most of the kiddos are on during the day. If I send a message and say, hey, Chad, you forgot to complete ReadWorks question 3, he'll almost always comment right back. Okay, going there right now. So it's a great communication key, but it did take quite a bit of parent involvement also. Like the kids knew when they left on that last day, but they needed some parent help also. Some of our first graders aren't fluent readers, so that's kind of hinders them in being able to do that at home by themselves.
I feel like Brooke, we may have to contract Carol. We may be making like some videos of like how some of this stuff works with littles, um, because I think that's a powerful thing. I think we've been talking on here in the Community Brew for the past couple of weeks about like education will be forever changed, right? Like we can't, once this box has been opened, like we can't put it back in. So kids, even though I don't think it's a primary means or they necessarily like being away from their friends, like this whole video technology and they're gonna have a awareness of that even down like as you guys are saying preschool all the way through, like they're gonna see it. So I think the question is how do we leverage that and use that, and I think it's going to be really important to be thoughtful. I know Jesse Morgan's out there, and that's something we've been having a conversation about. Like, how do we engage our young kids to, if situations like this occur, or whatever, that they know how to do some of those things, get to your waffle, log in, that sort of stuff. So that's really cool to hear.
Let me hop over to the chat real quick. There's a conversation going on, like kind of on a sidebar here that I want to acknowledge. Tiffany Clark said that we have some speech therapists leading through Google Classroom. She said she is in awe. This is something we never thought about. Some also co-led small groups in general ed classrooms virtually. And then Heather McGlone from Boston chimed in, and she said that her little guy did a speech session this week with Andy Abshire, and it was awesome. She worked with him and then talked to me about what things to work with him on until they met next week. And so there's really been this cool sort of conversation about, Google Meets and sort of a unique, classroom beyond the general ed regular classroom, I guess is what I'm trying to say, like small groups and sort of reimagining that too, which is really cool to see these sort of comments in the chat box over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to see it unfold. So we've gone preschool, we've gone first grade. So Miss Leanne Lewis is here from Bloomfield Middle School. So excited to see some things that's going on there.
Hey, hang on, no pressure. But before you go, Leanne, we have two board members on watching Community Brew Live. Hello, Mr. Dickerson and Miss Berry. So, yay! We're so glad that you're here. I had to give you a shout out. So, all right, you're up, Leanne.
Okay, yes, I'm Leanne, and I'm at Bloomfield Middle School, sixth grade science. NCI has looked very different than the classroom, like everyone has said. I've tried to combine reading, writing, and experiences to fuel their learning.
And whenever we first started this, of course, from the teacher perspective, you're looking at the curriculum that you have and all of the things that you still want the students to learn. And that curriculum has totally changed for me. It's more of a live science experience, where I have the students, they're reading current events, and they're looking at writing in the perspective of what they're learning. They're live, and now their classroom is at home and with a totally different set of people around them. But whenever they're looking at that and reading those current events and still looking at vocabulary that will enrich that, the thing that I found the first couple of weeks as I was putting on lessons, it was a challenge for all of us. But what I found was one day, I was sitting there and it was just really pretty outside. And I thought, I'm going to just put on, because we do Google Meets every day at a certain time. And I'm going to put on for students just to go outside for 10 minutes. And I want them to, and so I just threw out lots of choices, things that we were doing throughout the year. And I said, I want you just to take that and come back in 10 minutes. And we're going to just discuss what different things that you were able to bring from outside. And some of them said, well, I can't go outside. And I said, well, that's fine. Just look out your window. And since the bulk of the year has been on earth science, students just brought their gifts to the table. And even some of the students that usually may not even participate a whole lot, they were coming in and using those concepts that we learned in the classroom. And that one moment totally changed the way that I set up my Google Classroom and my lessons for here and going forward, because I realized it was the experiences and providing those experiences for the students that was going to allow them to take away the biggest amount of learning from this. And so we've built on that, and like I said, we still have those reading components, but adding in and making sure to give them the experiences that's going to help them to enrich that. And that's because the thing is, none of us are going to forget this, and the students aren't going to forget this either. But what kind of experiences can I provide for them throughout this that's going to stick with them 10 years from now, that's going to be lifelong learning for them? And when we can turn around what they're learning in the classroom and allow them to showcase that in real world experiences, that's ultimately the goal for us. So some of the things that, besides just the little nature walk that I was talking about, and then they would come back and talk about weathering and erosion and the things that they've seen outside. Some of the other different experiences that, because like I said, I have earth science and space science, is just looking at like just stargazing and allowing them to see the different technology even that's available for them to look at when they're looking at that night sky. They're very familiar with different social media and technology, but they're not always familiar with the apps and different things that they can use with that. And so showing them and teaching them how to use those has really helped. And one of the things we've been doing all year has been on analyzing and interpreting data in science. So what I thought would be a really good experience for them is to take that, flatten the curve, look at the data, not only for Kentucky, but across the nation and even in the world, and look at those those pieces of data and what does flatten the curve mean? How can we use that in live science for them? And so those are some of the things. Some cool things that we're doing is one week we did Spirit Week. The kids got on. They got to wear their favorite shades. They could dress up in their favorite BMS clothing or attire, and they really liked that. And they love getting on Google Meets and seeing one another. They like to come on and just be able to experience this together because they're not able to see one another in the classroom setting anymore. But this gives them that opportunity, and they bring up discussions, as some of you were talking about. They bring up discussions and different things, and how it's much different. So that's pretty much all that I have. But it's been a very different experience. But what I'm seeing is that those experiences are what's making the difference for them.
That's really cool. I think the idea of getting our kids outside and being able to utilize space outside of a building is a great example of where I think NTI will forever change school, because we've now seen where science doesn't have to be taught necessarily in the classroom, right? Like, we can utilize the space, we can utilize our neighborhoods, our farms, the night sky. We can utilize the things outside of the four walls of school to really teach kids in a creative way. And I love too how the engagement of reading and writing as part of that experience. I think that's a really powerful example of where NTI can push us to do things not just differently now, but can influence us beyond these, however many weeks of NTI that we have going. So thank you for sharing that. Brooke, do you want to hop in with anything on the chat? You know,
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I will say that there was lots of shout outs for you, Miss Lewis. Randy Adams said that he's had parents bragging on Miss Lewis for combining literature experiences and outside activities during NTI. Amanda Noakes said, "What a way to give students a voice through this experience." Let's see. Let's see. Miss Ann Cox, she said, "My youngest son is a sixth grader at BMS and appreciates all the structure as well as flexibility and creativity that the BMS teachers has provided." Thank you. So lots of good stuff out there.
I think the cool thing about these 2 days, we don't really know how it would go, but the past week, we've tried to give some diverse views of things that are going on with the NTI world. Wednesday, I think it was really neat on Wednesday to hear from some parents. I think a couple of them are high school parents, and we had some younger parents as well. I think it's neat to have that perspective, because it's one we don't always necessarily engage or get like we should. And then the past couple of days, there's so many ideas of things that have been going on. I think when we look across the district K-12, I think I can speak for our teachers and educators that this is definitely not something that we wanted. I think we all miss our kids tremendously. I know that as we get closer to May, really trying to think about the way in which we're engaging our students and being able to still see them and celebrate them and honor them is a really important thing that we're going to have to get our minds around. I know at the high schools, I've been talking with Miss Newton and Mr. Nesbitt, and the high schools are different because those both of those schools have been 1-to-1 all year long. Kids have a much greater fluency of being able to use technology and being able to use it in that mechanism. And our technology team has really been working to get access where we can and make sure we have computers that are fixed and up to date. And but I think one of the biggest pieces that the high schools are experiencing, and I think it's starting to happen at the middle schools and elementary schools as well, is what does it really look like to honor and celebrate our kids through an NTI process if we don't get that point, that touch point some point this year. So who knows when we'll go back, or if we will. We don't know when that'll happen, but I think us thinking about what does that look like for our kids and celebrating and honoring them is going to be an important piece of the conversation moving forward. So thank you guys so much for being on here today. It's a really, really great thing to see the work that's going on across our district, and we're really excited about that. Brooke, is there anything else from the chat before we transition and talk a little bit about next week and what's happening?
No, I just want to show you guys what I'm working with here. I'm like literally in the middle of like a bubble machine and children 3 inches from my face. Okay. I just like had to tell the YouTube world like what is happening right now behind the scenes at Grand Central Station. So, okay. Chase, I'm going to throw it back over to you so you can talk about what's happening next week. It's a little real life for y'all. Just saying.
We had the dog walk behind. You got to see Brooke's dog. That's now Facebook famous. If y'all follow Brooke on Facebook. And then I was wondering where the bubbles. I thought that's maybe just an interesting experience that you now have. So those sweet kids of yours. So we're really excited about next week and what's coming. Actually, the next 2 weeks. So starting next Monday, if you can go back this far, it was like only a month and 4 days ago. But on March the 13th, we were supposed to have our Backpack Day student gift showcase, and unfortunately, that didn't happen due to all this. It's crazy that was only a month ago. It seems like it was like 2 years ago. But we were supposed to have a student gift showcase. Obviously, that didn't get to occur. So what we've created over the next couple weeks with the Community Brew Live is each day we will have one school that'll be showcased, and we will get to hear from students that we're going to present on the Student Gift Showcase Day about some of the things that they've been doing this year, and give them an opportunity to still be able to honor and celebrate them. So really excited. We're going to get every school over the next 2 weeks. I think, if I remember the schedule correctly, I think Monday's Boston, Tuesday's BES, Wednesday's Thomas Nelson. I have no idea out after those 3 what the next schedule is, but we're excited for hopefully we'll have over 250 kids and lots of different teachers and educators on the Community Brew over the course of the next 2 weeks. So really excited to celebrate and honor that work. So look forward to that starting next Monday at 8:30.
So along those same lines, we will be having our Community Brew, like Chase said. Each school will be featured in the morning for the Student Gift Showcase. And starting on Monday, we are going to launch a new live series specifically geared towards our students and families. And that is called Story Time at 2. So you guys might be familiar with the Goodnight Dolly series. I'm going to pop this up here for you. You all know probably that the Imagination Library initiative is really something that is important to us as we talk about reading and writing experiences for kiddos in our community. And we didn't get to have our Dolly's Big Journey party, so we wanted to find a way to still provide some fun experiences that really are aligned to the Imagination Library program and have a little bit of fun. So every day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we are going to be having someone from the community read a children's book at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's going to be live streamed here on YouTube and also on our Facebook page. So on Monday, for example, Boston is our student gift showcase, and you might see a familiar Boston mascot and a familiar Boston community member reading a book at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's going to be really fun next couple of weeks as we showcase our students and also have a little fun with some reading. And there's also going to be some fun surprises. I'm not going to give it all away right now, but definitely something to tune into. So I think, Chase, did you have anything else?
No, that's awesome. I'm excited about that. It's cool to see stuff that we start kicking around in our brains, start to come to fruition. It's always fun. So thanks, Brooke, for your leadership in that. And I'm excited to see that unfold as a parent of 2 little ones.
Well, I have to say, our amazing and incredible library media specialists are heading up our story time at 2 and coordinating with our community members, and would not be possible without them. So you guys make it an impossible Friday and a wonderful weekend, and we will see you back on Monday for a super exciting week. Enjoy the bubbles and whatever else. That's all I got, friends. We're peacing out on that note.
See you guys.